You know what? Sometimes you just gotta complain. You gotta have a quick complain session and then move along. And that is what this video is going to serve for me. I have some things that I want to complain about. Before we even get into it, disclaimer. This is just for fun, you guys. This is for funsies. It's not that serious. This is just books at the end of the day, okay? There are way bigger issues going on in the world, but sometimes you want to complain about things and you just need a vent and then move on. And that's what this video is going to serve for me. So I guess you could call this like a hot takes video. It's just my complaints. And I have my complaints, I dwindled them down into 3 categories. Trust me, there's other things I could talk about, and I'm only going to scratch the surface of some of the topics in today's video, but I have it split up into 3 categories. One is my biggest one that I want to complain about the way people review books, okay? We're gonna go over reviewing books. And then I have some complaints about booktube content, which is a little awkward for me because here I am, a booktube creator, but I have some complaints to make about booktube content. And then my final category is in defense of booktube. So let's get into it. Okay, so starting with reviews. This is more applicable to Goodreads or like Storygraph or Fable, but honestly, this mostly applies to Goodreads. This is such a non-issue, but I hate when people put the synopsis of the book in their book review. Oh my God, I don't know why that makes me so mad. It makes me not want to read the rest of your review. What do you mean? You're going to copy and paste the synopsis that is a scroll above your review and tell me what this book is about. I know what this book is about. I'm coming to the review section to hear what you thought about the book. I don't need you to recap what it's about. I'm already in the review tab of said website. What are you doing? In the same vein, I don't know if this is a thing as much anymore, but you could find reviews like this on a lot of books. It might be outdated at this point. I hope it is because it feels it. And in the same vein are reviews that have gifs in them or gifs, however you say it. That's a whole different debate to have, is how to say gifs or gifs. But if you have gifs in your review, I am also immediately scrolling. I cannot take you serious at that point. It's giving millennial BuzzFeed articles, and maybe I'm just aging myself by even mentioning BuzzFeed. Don't answer that, but that's what it's giving. It is so cringy to me. I see a GIF and I gag, and not in a good way. This next one is a little bit debatable as well, but for me personally, I really dislike when people don't use star ratings. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand the argument that star ratings are extremely subjective. I don't think you should ever be taking just a star rating for face value because that value is so variable. We all have different meanings with our star ratings. I feel like, especially when it comes to 3 stars, I feel like 3-star ratings are just a wild card. They are even just for me. I will give 3 stars to such a different range of reasons, but I digress. If you don't use star ratings, you just need to be extremely well-spoken and very eloquent and very clear in a additional review. I just feel like having the combination of both is best. Because honestly, even books that I have given 2 stars to or 2.5 stars to, books that I did not like, I would still recommend them to the right person, to the person that I think whose taste it would align with. I would still pretty much recommend any book I've ever read, with a very few amount that I would just say nobody should read. But even books I've hated, I could probably think of somebody that might like it because of just how subjective reading is. And yes, there's also an argument of if a star rating should be based on your entertainment or based on the quality of writing or blah, 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 blah. To me, I feel like a star rating should always just reflect your personal feelings. If you only value how a book is objectively written, then sure, have your star ratings mean that. But I feel like for the vast majority of people, we're reading it based on our experience and entertainment, what we feel we got out of a story. So I don't feel like a star rating should ever just mean one thing anyways. I feel like everybody should be rating with a combination of all of those things. And I think it largely also depends on the genre, because a group of people that read literary works, they are most likely readers that are more moved by prose and more moved by metaphors and the writing, rather than, say, thriller readers who are more so not focused on the prose, but focused on the twist and the buildup of the story and the plot line. They are more plot-driven readers. And nothing is wrong with being either one of those types of readers. But when you're going into like a thriller, or you're going into a horror, or you're going into, I don't know, another one, romantasy, you're going to have a different set of standards and different plot devices or whatever that you focus on. All that is to say that I think star ratings are important and serve a purpose, but of course I feel like they are just a piece of the puzzle, because again, it's just a very certain type of person that can get away with not having the star rating and still very much convey their exact feelings on the book. Because honestly, sometimes when I talk about a book, I will edit a video and be like, the way I talked about that actually sounds like I didn't really like the story as much as I did, because I ended up accidentally focusing too much on what I didn't like, and I didn't focus enough on what I did like. Interjecting as editing Sarah, because I feel like I didn't really round off my point with this topic. And I thought about something else I wanted to mention with it. So what I was getting at is that reviews can be difficult. They are multi-level, can be very complex with a lot of caveats, but a star rating acts as a very good snapshot idea of what someone's experience is with a book, which is especially nice for those of us who may be just deciding if we even want to read a book and don't want to necessarily read a super long, in-depth analytical review, because we like to go into books with a little bit less information than more, which is how I am. That said, I also seek out reviews and star ratings from creators that I know. So I know and I have a good idea of what their star ratings mean and how that might compare to my experience, because I have a good grasp and a good idea of their reading taste, and it makes for a very quick, easy comparison. But again, it's just a piece of the puzzle, but I think it's a very important piece, and I much prefer when people have both, because I like to read the long, in-depth reviews for books that I have read, and I like to look at the star ratings for books that I haven't. This next point I kind of brought up actually in my last video, or one of my most recent videos, and that is that I hate when people review a book and call it boring and then leave it at that. Like, what do you mean a book is boring? Like, that is such a inadequate, insufficient, meager, and frankly lame analysis of a book, because there needs to be so much elaboration if you just say a book is boring. If someone says a book is boring and leaves it at that, I literally want to roll my eyes so far back that I can watch in real time my cerebrum atrophying. That is such an inadequate type of review, because I take this a little bit personal. I'll be honest. I take this a little personal because most of my favorite books of all time, people say are boring. And I can agree with them when we're talking about plot. A lot of the books that I love have extremely minimal plot. So I understand why people think it's boring. But if you're going to say a book is boring, you do have to elaborate on why. If you're a plot-driven reader and it was boring to you because there wasn't really plot, that's fine. Just say that though, because a lot of books don't exist to just be an action-packed, plot-heavy book. A lot of books exist that want to focus more on the prose and themes or a character study. And to me, that's not boring. It's just not action-packed. You're just not getting the same things out of it as a character-driven reader would get out of it. So I think it's okay to say a book is boring, but you have to explain why. And I just see far too many times of people just one-starring a book saying this was boring and moving on. Okay, so yeah, I hate that. I'm actually gonna scoot to this side. I'm trying to battle this freaking sunlight right now that's setting. Let's move the camera too. Okay, we'll do that. I'm trying to dodge this single sunbeam blasting into my pupil. Anyways, my next topic is that reading is subjective. I know, revolutionary. What I mean when I say that is reading is so subjective, and keep reviews about the book. Keep book reviews about the book. I have seen personally way too many book reviews where instead of just saying, this book is bad because I think this, and this, the plot did this, and this, characters this, and this, so to me this book is objectively bad, or whatever. Instead of just leaving a book review at that, I have seen people say, if you like this book, or if you don't like this book, you're dumb. You need to raise your standards. Also, this is like sidebar, but the whole argument and all of this discourse about anti-intellectualism and people that attack romantasy and smut and stuff like that, they do it in a way that is attacking the people that read it. That is saying, if you read dark romance, there's something wrong with you. Those don't go hand in hand. What I'm trying to get at is bash a book, don't bash the readers of said genre or said book. I don't like this new idea of, especially going on with that anti-intellectualism argument, that people who read just for entertainment, people who read just for like a popcorn read, a quick and easy, not very deep, not very analytical, not very literary type of story, like those are lesser than readers than those of us who like to read very complex, very mentally stimulating types of reads. People read for all types of reasons, and every type of reason is valid. It's just continuously this competition of who's the most intellectual and who's the smartest and who does this hobby better. And let me remind you guys that this is a hobby. You should not be worried about what somebody else is reading. You should not care what somebody else is reading. Now, I will say there is a genuine concern in terms of where this comes into play with the decline or the apparent decline of editing, of genuine editing of books and the publishing companies. There is a genuine discourse there, but I think that it far too often becomes targeting people that are reading for entertainment and reading for what somebody else might deem as not as worthy a reason or whatever. And again, anti-intellectualism. That's such a buzzword right now. There's such a target on people that aren't reading right. And I think that that's very much the wrong way to have this conversation. So focus the energy where it should be focused on, and don't get mad at people for buying books that they get excited about because other people are excited about, and you don't feel like people should be excited about that book because it's objectively not that good, in your opinion. It doesn't matter, okay? Read your other book that you want to read. Stop worrying about what other people are reading. I got a little bit off course there. Overall, my point is leave book reviews to be about the book. Stop attacking the readers and bashing readers of a certain book. Okay, this last one, I've never heard anybody talk about this, okay? And with any of these topics, I am so open to discourse in the comments. Change my mind if you want to change my mind. I could change my mind about some of these in tomorrow, you know what I mean? I'm not stuck in my ways of thinking. These are just my current complaints. But this one in particular, and I feel like this could become a deeper discussion, but I haven't heard anybody talk about it, so I just kind of want to bring it up. I've seen a lot of people say and bash books for being misogynistic or racist or homophobic because a character in the book is. And I think there needs to be a huge distinction between a legitimately racist, misogynistic, homophobic book and a book that just has a character that's like that. We will talk about misogyny specifically because that is all I am qualified to talk about at this current moment. So with misogyny. I have an exact example of a book that I see people say all the time is a misogynistic book. Empire the Vampire by J. Kristoff. I hear a lot of people say that this book is misogynistic. I disagree. I disagree. There are misogynistic characters in the book, and that is where it's left. There is a huge difference to me when a book is legitimately misogynistic, for example. If every woman in the book is very clearly just very flat, not very characterized, not very deep, is very much a two-dimensional type of character. If the women in the books are only described based on their body or the voluptuousness of their breasts or their lips or whatever, that is misogynistic writing, period. To dwindle down somebody to stereotypes or to body parts or whatever, or to their skin color or anything like that, when the narrative itself, when the writing itself is describing characters like that, or making these characters be the butt of the joke or whatever, that is legitimately hateful writing. Now, when a character is a unlikable character and that character is misogynistic and that character is referring to women as bitches or whatever misogynistic thing it is, as long as those things are staying in the character dialogue or in the character's inner thoughts, then that is a character being a bad character. And I think we need to really distinguish the two, because I think it is important to have bad people and bad characters in books. We need to continue to represent bad takes because if nothing else, that supports and substantiates our own stances. And we need to have unlikable characters that are the antagonist and that do die or whatever. Like, we need to have bad people represented and have it be clear that these are bad people, that they have hateful thoughts, that they have hateful speech. Now, I don't say this to then be used for any type of person to be using slurs. That is totally unnecessary. A white person, a man, a straight person, they do not need to use any type of slur, even from a bad character or a shitty character, to get their hatred across. You do not need to use any of the vulgar slurs to do that. And if you're a good author, you shouldn't have to do that. You should be able to emulate and make clear these characters' thoughts and feelings without having to rely on shocking words if you're not the type of person who that word is used against. So to summarize my exact thought, there's a huge difference between a hateful book and a hateful character, and I think hateful characters still need to be represented in books. It's important to know your enemy, you know what I'm saying? So that brings me to our second category. So I'm here to talk shit about booktube content specifically as a booktube creator. So my first complaint, if you, yes, you watching, if you put a picture of a book and a thumbnail for like a reading vlog, and then you don't read that book in that reading vlog, hands up, we're fighting. That is false advertisement. I get so mad because sometimes I'll click on a reading vlog specifically because there's a book in there that I'm like, oh, I read that book. I want to see like what they thought about that, blah, 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 whatever. And then they don't read the book. I'm like, why did you put it in the thumbnail? I can forgive it if it is clearly just a book that's part of an aesthetic picture where there's other books and stuff or whatever, where the picture itself wasn't necessarily to highlight one specific book, but it was more of like an aesthetic thing going on. I get that. I'm talking about, I've clicked on videos where they purposely added just the picture of the book into the thumbnail, like a collage style. I do it all the time, but I am adding books that I legitimately read, or sometimes DNF in the book, or in the vlog rather.
If you were going out of your way to add a book to a thumbnail and not read that book,
straight to jail. There is one type of video that pops up a lot at the beginning of the new year in response to people creating videos about their favorite books of the year or their worst books of the year. So people will take that and then create a video that it's reading booktubers' favorite books or whatever. And then they read the books that certain booktubers have in their top list. Now, I really like this video. I think it's fun and I think it's a great way to connect the community and to be potentially exposed to other creators. But the issue is that I see consistently the same like 5 to 10 huge booktube influencers used for this. And that's not to say that I dislike any of these creators. I watch them myself. But when these types of videos are all based on the same few creators, it just gets tired. It gets a little tired. So what I'm hoping to see this time around is more creators using other creators to inspire these videos. I do plan to do this. As the saying goes, be the change you want to see in the world. So I do plan to do this myself, but I hope that others have maybe noticed this and will take it upon themselves to try to include smaller creators or other creators that I feel like just should have a wider audience and deserve to have more viewership. So moving forward, I hope that we can try to, as a community, include more people, pretty much reach out farther, you know, find some other creators and let's uplift each other. Okay, this next one, I don't have one single thought with it, so I can't give you guys a summary of this. I just have a couple of things I've noticed and a couple of observations. And again, this is more so to maybe open a discussion about it. And I do think that this has been discoursed before, but I have noticed and I hate how popular negative book content is. Those rant reviews, bashing books. Now there's a lot of book drama videos, and that is not to say that we shouldn't have any of these, but my main point, I guess, is that I'm just sad to see how much more popular I feel like these videos are versus the more positive, the more, dare I say, down to earth, the more casual side of book content, which I realize is totally hypocritical because I'm sitting here complaining. So this in itself is one of those negative videos. But in my defense, I never said I was perfect.
I never said I was perfect. I never said I didn't have any flaws.
My girl Maya Papaya knows, okay? Never said I was perfect. I watch these videos. They're light, easy drama. They're not that serious, but they're drama enough that my little drama goblin inside of me gets satisfaction from, okay? We like the tea, we like the gossip, all right? I'm not here to say that this content shouldn't exist, because that brings me to my next category, which is in defense of creators in booktube. This is the type of media, the type of content that gets the clicks. It's popular for a reason. Everybody likes a little bit of drama. Everybody likes to hate on a book that they hated. And again, this is also low stakes compared to the very real world horrors that we're living through. So this is low stakes, like I said, but it's just a little disheartening, I guess, as a creator to see how well these types of videos do perform, because I personally just don't want to turn to that. And I never will. I never will become like a 100% negative channel. And I think that even like the book drama and stuff, I think a lot of people do it well and do it tastefully. But I do a little bit judge the channels that seem like they are just negative, just rant reviews, but they're successful. So again, it's disheartening because I don't want to feel like I have to turn to that stuff. And I don't, but I can see how a lot of other people could. For me, this is a hobby, and it's always been a hobby. I work full time. This is not something I rely on to have clicks. I don't need this to be a stable income. I totally understand why creators end up going that
route and
doing that stuff because it is much more reliable, along with like the clickbait and the rage bait and all of that stuff. You know, I understand to a certain extent why people go that way, but it's just, again, a little disheartening. As a little tiny itty bitty creator herself, it's just sad to see, because I entered this community with positivity in mind, mostly wanting to talk about books that I love. I really don't like talking about books that I didn't like. It's fun to like hate on and drag a book once in a while. Gotta admit, it's fun. It gets some frustrations out, you know, but it just, positive reviews, books that I love so much that are immediate 5 stars, those just feed my soul a little bit more. So again, it's just sad to see how well and how quickly people click onto the more negative stuff. But I don't blame anybody. Again, I engage with some of the stuff, and I can't blame the creators that are trying to create a more stable income for themselves. So there's nobody to blame here. It's just an observation I've made, and there's complex thoughts with it, and you know, it's a gray area.
so my next 2 topics, which are
Also in defense of booktube, are very surface level. I just want to say my 2 cents, but there are very long, very well thought out, very articulate video essays about these topics. So I am not the one for that. I just wanted to give my 2 cents because I've seen these topics become a huge commentary topic. And the first one is that I am sick and tired of seeing people complain and bash both creators and just people for the amount of books that they own, for their home libraries, for book hauls. I'm so sick of it. To me, it's just weird. I think that people need to focus their energy somewhere else. I think that you just need
to come back down to earth. I think that people who are chronically online
are the ones that have the most issue. And I just feel like there's a lot of judgment. And I think that there needs to be a little less judgment, again, in the book space, not targeted towards books. There's a lot of judgment on the people in the book space. I obviously do not think people should be buying books if it's something that they legitimately cannot afford. There is a real problem with overconsumption in general, but I just don't think books is the worst aspect of that. And I think that, again, everybody just needs to calm down a little bit.
I just think we need to focus less on constantly criticizing each other, criticizing people's book collections, their physical TBRs, their buying habits. There are people out there who greatly overdo it and are kind of irresponsible. But again, at the end of the day, who am I to judge if they have the funds and the means to be buying what they're buying and be purchasing all of this stuff? Now, again, I know that there's other arguments, but I think that we have to take a step back and remember that the percentage of people that read in general is so small, and the percentage of these people that have these huge, crazy collections is even smaller. And I think that we forget that because we are stuck in the community, not stuck like we can't leave, but we just absorb and consume a lot of the videos around it. A lot of, I think BookTok in particular is kind of pretty bad at ruining hobbies in a way and kind of very much glamorizing consumerism. I think TikTok in general is really bad with that. BookTok is a whole other beast that I am not prepared to take on, and I do not have a finger on the pulse of BookTok. But I think we have to keep in mind that even those people make up such a tiny fraction, and we need to not let those people become what the whole community is and is seen as. And yeah, I just, again, at the end of the day, if people have the means and have the money, who am I to say how big their book collection should be? There are many great arguments for why physical TBRs and personal book collections are advantageous and why people should be having and owning physical media and physical books like that. But the one that I always go back to is that reading is a lifelong hobby. But all of this again just circles back to this era that I feel like we're living in, of this nonstop judgment of how people are participating in the hobby of reading. And yeah, so I'm sick of the generalization that buying books is bad and having big physical TBRs is bad. Don't get me wrong, there's some people that have a crazy amount of unread books on their shelves, but everybody has their own number in their head of what is acceptable or not. I think it's also ridiculous to have 0 physical TBR. I would never be able to live like that. I just feel like our energy is better spent other places, and again, not in this nonstop judgment.
Just relax a little bit, okay? Just take a little breather. That said, I recently stumbled across a channel called Allison Talks Books, and she had a very good video on this topic and kind of connecting it to a parasocial relationship and all of that. I will link her video down below because, again, she is much more articulate, much more well-spoken than I. She did much more research. I just wanted to give my 2 cents. But if you want a deeper dive into that topic, because that topic in itself can branch off into so many other subtopics, go to her and her video, which I will have linked down below. Okay, the next one is a complaint I've seen a lot recently as well. And again, this is another topic that there are long video essays on this topic alone, because this again branches off and webs into so many other things that can be discussed. So I'm taking it at a very surface level, but there's a way deeper dive you can go into this topic alone. And that is this idea and narrative that booktube is all the same. Everybody's reading the same book, everyone's posting the same videos, or all the video recommendations, all the book recommendations are the same, or blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is you're complaining about, that seems to be a copy paste of everything else. Here's the thing. I think that, again, there's a lot of intricacies to this issue. There's a lot of other factors, but what I am boiling it down to is you need to change your algorithm. I fear, you need to not be so complacent with just what YouTube is giving you. You need to go out of your way to try to find people. Unfortunately, you do have to do some of the work, but you have to try to find people that are doing different original types of videos if that's what you want. You need to find people that are giving a variety of book recs or are reading a variety of books. You need to find those people and you need to subscribe. And I say that because apparently, I haven't done my research on this, but apparently the way people interact with YouTube now is quite a bit different, and people don't subscribe the way that they used to. And I think that it's important to subscribe.
Because again, if you don't, and you maybe don't click on someone's video once or twice, they may never be recommended to you again.
You are completely at the will of the algorithm, and I don't think that that's good. I don't think that's good. You have to guide or push the algorithm a certain way, because if you don't, they will just regurgitate again those very popular creators. Quite frankly, you might be only interacting with a lot of the same things. So you do have to put in some work to diversify your subscription feed and your suggested feed as well. So in terms of seeing a lot of the same trends and a lot of the same videos, I think that one, everybody needs to put in a little bit of work to try to not see all the same stuff. That said, I do acknowledge and realize that there are trends in booktube, and this isn't even specific to booktube, but there's video trends in all types of communities. And right now, I feel like the reading vlogs, the book hauls, the reading down your TBR challenges, those are all very hot trending topics and videos right now in booktube. So you're gonna see a lot of that because, again, in defense of creators, that's what people are watching. The booktube niche in particular is so small and most, like the vast majority of booktube creators are not doing it full time. The probably like 99% of booktube creators, this is our hobby for us. This is not a very lucrative type of hobby. And it's difficult. It is a particularly difficult type of video and niche and YouTube community because so much time is dedicated before the camera is even rolling. The amount of time it takes to read a book, and then the amount of time it takes to read so many books that you can have recommendation videos or have reading vlogs. There's so much time that goes into this hobby before it even becomes a video. So I think that we need to give people a little bit of grace. This kind of crosses over with seeing a lot of the same books. There's only so much time to read so many books. And when there are new releases and when everybody else is talking about them, FOMO is real. But that said, I feel like a lot of people have a good balance. There are creators that very clearly read a lot of the new releases and stick to the new releases. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think there's people that want to watch people just reading new releases. And I think that that's fine. But if you don't want that, then again, go a little bit out of your way and find people that balance that a little bit more with backlist, or there's channels that read mostly backlist. So these people exist. They're just a little harder to find because somebody who's reading all backlist are not going to get the same clicks that somebody who's reading all new releases will get. So in conclusion, pretty much, I think everybody needs to give everybody else a little bit of grace and just take it easy. Take it easy, okay? So that's it. That is everything for today's video. I just wanted to bitch and moan a little bit. So thank you so much for hanging out with me while I complain. Hopefully I got everything across the way I wanted to. I'll know while I'm editing. I pretty much always forget to say something. But it is what it is. Let me know what you think about these topics. Tell me what I got right. Tell me what I got wrong. Again, I am a flexible person. My mind will change, but these are my current complaints and current thoughts. So cheers to that, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!